Welcome, everybody. I think everyone knows my name. Should know my name. My name is Dr. Ross. So we're going to talk about soft tissue, a topic that Dr. Trish came up with an awesome title, Solve Your Soft Tissue Issue. Soft tissue, of course, it means anything that's really not bone. So it could be muscle, could be cartilage, could be tendons or ligaments, could be fascia. So all those things are what we call soft tissue because they are soft. Seems pretty simple. And so when we're talking about your soft tissue issues, over time, things happen to your soft tissue, your muscles, your ligaments, your tendons, and they build up scar tissue, or what we call microscarring, and those things cause problems. And that can cause muscles to be tense, that can cause ligaments not to pull correctly, that can cause joints to not operate correctly, and so forth. So what tonight's goal is to give you a good idea as to how to solve some of those issues. We'll talk about the physical things you can do, like stretching and massage and working your muscles and your tendons and your tissues with your hands. We'll talk about some of the nutritional and chemical things you can do, and we'll also talk about some of the mental things you can do. So all these things run very much in line with what we do as chiropractors, because as we're trying to align your joints and your spine and your body, the soft tissue is what supports that alignment. So of course, if you have a great aligned body and mechanically everything is running smooth, then you're going to have 100% power flowing from your brain through the spinal cord, out that spinal cord to all your organs, cells, and tissues. But what supports that? How do you hold that alignment? How do you keep that alignment from just going back out? You have to strengthen all the soft tissue, all the muscles, tendons, ligaments, and tissues that hold your spine and your joints together. That makes sense? And we hear it every single day where people say, well, I have this tight muscle and it's a tight knot, or I get tension here and here, and how do I get rid of that? How do I, well, that's coming to this class is the way to start getting rid of it. First thing though, and before we go on, because this is a huge topic and there's a ton of things that go on with this. But first thing is that our bodies are geared, we were created to have a certain amount of tension. So just like when I talk about stress, we're meant to be under some degree of stress. That's how we get the best results. So when we have zero stress on our body, we might feel great, but it's only for a certain amount of time then we start to feel out of sorts and we start to feel like we need to be doing something, we need to accomplish something, we need to go do something. So the same is true of tension in your body. So a muscle, when you calculate the strength, it's actually strongest with some tensile strength to it. So in other words, we're not meant to be completely relaxed. And I always use the analogy when you pick up a cat and the cat's just loosey-goosey and it seems like there's no tension in its muscles, there's still quite a bit of tension. It's just, it feels loose to us, but if it was completely loose, then it would just be a rag doll, and there's still tension there. So tension is not a bad thing, it's just how to work with it. Same with stress. Stress is not a bad thing, it's just how do you work with it. Make sense? So let's talk a little bit about contractive tissues or non-contractive tissues, because this is a difference here in how we address it. So contractive tissue is muscle. So all muscle contracts, the two ends are pulled towards the middle. By the way, anyone know how, when you all know what rigor mortis is? I was asked to explain this the other day. So it takes energy to stop the contraction. So in other words, if we had no energy in our body, the contraction, the tissues would overlap and overlap and overlap, and it becomes tenser and tenser and tenser. Is that a word, tenser? I don't know. It is now. I just made up a word. I'm like George Bush. So it becomes more tense and more tense and more tense until it's rigid. And that's why when we die and there's no more energy being created, no more ATP to break up those bonds, we become rigid. That's rigor mortis. So most people think it's the opposite way, that we should just become loose when we die. But it's not that way because our muscles are geared naturally to contract. They want to contract. We have to break those bonds to create relaxation. Make sense? So relaxation takes energy, and that's the contractive part to it. So it takes energy and effort to relax. It's the opposite way than a lot of us think. The other type of tissue is the non-contractive tissue. This is things like your tendons or your ligaments or your fascia and that sort of stuff. And that's not contractive at all. It's just put there for support. So for example, your ligaments hold joints together and they protect those joints from becoming subluxated or dislocated, right? So you don't want to necessarily relax a tendon, or a tendon's really just the end of a muscle. So that's like a rope. But the ligament or tendons, we don't try and relax those. You can still work on them and break up fixation, but we're not trying to relax those, we're trying to relax muscle. So a lot of times with tendinitis, the muscle needs to be relaxed, but not necessarily the tendon. The tendon is just the rope part. So if I have a rope and it's attached to, let's say, a movable object, let's say a car, and I'm pulling on that rope, I'm the muscle. I'm doing the pulling. The rope is not doing the pulling. The rope is just how I'm addressing those forces. The rope is like the tendon. Make sense? So when we're talking about relaxation, we're talking about contractive tissues. When we're talking about other things like breaking up fixation or microscarring, we're talking about the non-contractive tissues. But both together make up soft tissue. Question? So the three ways, when we talk about health in general, we talk about the three main things: how you think, how you move, and how you eat. And the same is true when we're talking about soft tissue. So we want to talk about the nutritional component, the physical component, and the mental component. So let's start with the mental component, because I always think that's the most important thing. First of all, is there such thing as a muscle relaxer medication? Trick question.
Formula 303. Melatonin.
So we've all heard of it, right? So doctors will prescribe something called a muscle relaxer. But what does that drug do? Does it go to your muscles? Does it relax your muscles? Mm-hmm. So what part of it does it technically relax?
Your brain.
Your brain, right. So there's no such thing as a muscle relaxer in terms of pharmaceutical, chemical, that kind of stuff. Now we know there's a lot of things that herbally and vitamin and minerally will relax muscle or soft tissue contraction. But in terms of pharmaceuticals, those things go to your brain. So it's similar, like if you are relaxing with a glass of wine and the wine tends to relax you, the wine is not doing anything for your muscles. The wine is relaxing your brain, or you feel less stress or whatever it may be. So when you hear the term muscle relaxer, well, my doctor gave me a muscle relaxer, so I took that. That's really an anti-anxiety medication. And it used to be called Valium. Who remembers Valium, Mommy's Little Helper from the 70s and stuff? And it got a bad rap because so many people became addicted to it. And so when they became addicted to it and they stopped being able to take care of their kids, it became an issue and there was a backlash, and they said, wait a second, too many doctors are prescribing this stuff to help people relax. And so instead of just taking it off the market, because it really doesn't make you a healthier you, it just makes you a drugged up you. So instead of taking it off the market, they turned it around and renamed it, and they called it muscle relaxer. And so doctors started to prescribe it as a muscle relaxer, like, oh, you need to relax, well, here's a muscle relaxer. But it actually does nothing for your muscles. So how do we relax the brain? That's the big thing. And there's a lot of different ways, but the first thing that and I'm going to skip to number 3 here, is you got to change the way you think about things. Now, this is really easy to say, really difficult to do. So how do you change the way you think about things? How do you change the way you perceive things? It's not an easy process. You have to start by talking and reading and looking at things differently, hang out with different people that have different views and so forth. One of the things that we stress so much in this clinic, and you remember the 5 essentials, one of them is the way we think, and the mental side is think about health differently. Think about what you're doing differently. If you start that, like from a weight loss program, if you start with the mind first, I'm not going to just change my diet. I'm not going to change my exercise program. I'm not going to change all that stuff. I'm going to change my mind first. Then your chances of success are far, far greater. So change the way you think about stress. Stress isn't bad. Stress is a good thing. Stress helps us achieve. But too much stress, you know, we need to work on and that kind of stuff. So what you watch, what you read, who you hang out with, all those things are important to change the way you think. You hang around with really positive people, people that are filled with goodness and they're happy the vast majority of the time. How does that make you feel? Yeah, better. You tend to be happier most of the time. Like the laughing babies. Yeah, the show was telling me about a kid's show where the whole show was just babies laughing. Sun comes up, babies laugh. Sun goes down, babies laugh. Ball falls on the ground, babies laugh. Ball gets thrown up in the air, babies laugh. And guess what? When the babies watch that, what do? Laugh. They laugh. And they feel good. Laughter's good. Releases endorphins, all that stuff. You hang out with someone that's really stressed out all the time and always negative, is always complaining about the government, always complaining about the weather, and always complaining. How do you feel? Yeah, so change the way you feel, and change the way you think, rather, can change the way you feel. You can release a lot of that stuff. By the way, one great piece of advice, it was by a guy named Norman Cousins, who wrote a book about healing. He healed himself from cancer and this other stuff, chronic disease, and he did it by checking himself out of the hospital. He was in the hospital and they were all the beeping wires and the drugs and the people coming in and people in gowns and all that kind of stuff. He checked himself out of the hospital against his doctor's wish, and he went to a hotel nearby, and he paid a nurse to come visit him twice a day to deliver whatever stuff he needed and check on him. He paid less, a lot less, to do that. So he was just paying the nurse and the hotel bill. And he just rented a whole bunch of Three Stooges movies and just watched them and laughed. And so laughter, he literally laughed his way back to health in his book. And so laughter is a great way to relax. So do things that make you laugh. Do things that make you happy, and that'll have a big effect mentally as well. So let's talk about some of the relaxation techniques: meditation, prayer, visualization. There is as many different techniques on all these things as, you know, I can possibly give you. So what I would say is, if you've never tried meditation or never really gone into prayer or never really done visualization, you just got to try it for yourself. See what works. The great thing about the internet right now with YouTube and all that stuff is you can find a million how-to videos. If you've never done yoga and you wanted to try yoga in the comfort of your own home with no one watching and no one wearing stretchy pants and all that kind of stuff, you can do it at home. You can just YouTube yoga. There's hundreds of different yoga programs, from basic beginner programs to stretching out your back programs to help your allergy programs to 20-minute programs, 10-minute programs, 30-minute programs, an hour program. So you can do all these things with meditation as well: guided meditations, guided visualizations, prayer. There's a million references on how to pray. People can pray for you and you can just listen. All those kind of things have a very, very big relaxing factor on our body. And I always say, if you have the faith that your body is self-healing and self-regulating, which of course we teach all the time, that if that's your faith, if that's what you truly believe, then you just let the rest go. You don't have to worry about it because it's already in place. You just have to try and eat as well as you can, try and exercise as good as you can, and try and do all the other things that come into play, like get adjusted regularly and have good relationships with your family and your friends, and work on those aspects, the things that you can control, and don't worry about, well, my body is not healing fast enough. Maybe there's something else. Maybe but your body is self-healing. So meditation, prayer, visualization, all those things are very, very valuable. How do you get better at those things? Practice. I say to my kids, how do you get better at soccer? Practice. How do you get better at video games? Practice. How do you get better at anything? Practice. Same is true of visualization. Same is true of prayer. You become better at any of those things with practice.
So how come casino doesn't work?
Casino, it will work. The more you practice, the more money you'll give away. That's the goal. People don't realize the goal for them is to take your money. The more you practice, the more money they get. It's great. Biofeedback is another great thing, and this is a cool. I think it's a really cool new thing that's going to become more and more prevalent is biofeedback. And there's a lot of offices. In fact, there's Sutter has a biofeedback section now that they're working on. And what they do is they hook you up to some form of machine, whether it be a heart rate monitor, a temperature monitor, a hormone monitor, a EKG or an ECG or whatever, a brainwave monitor, and then they allow you to try and manipulate that monitor. And so that's the sort of tech version, but there's lots of other biofeedback techniques. Like, for example, you inwardly go and you say, where's my tension level? Well, I'm at a 5 right now. I can just feel my tension level at a 5. And you take nice deep breaths and you really focus on releasing that and try and decrease that internally. Mentally, you're working on it. I'm going to show you in a little bit how to do that muscular wise, but you work on it biofeedback, so your brain is giving you signals and you can literally bring that tension level down. So just like someone can bring their heart rate down, people can bring their cortisol levels down, people can bring their temperature down by just feedback. They can see it or they can feel it and they can bring that under control, to the point where there's some people that can bring their heart rate down well below healthy levels just by mentally controlling that. So kind of cool thing as well. So stress is the other one that a lot of people will talk about. Well, I'm just so stressed. I'm just so stressed. Stress is, like I said, is not a bad thing. It's just something that you have to first acknowledge and understand that we're all, stressed. Whether we drive across town and there's stress in the driving, or whether we are under stress from our relationships or stress from our job or stress from whatever source, stress is always going to be there. And so we're not going to ever get rid of it, and we don't want to, but we have to deal with it and work with it. So when you do that, it just naturally is better for your body. Your body heals better, you feel better, your tension levels down, all those kind of stuff. And your soft tissue is better as a result. Make sense? So let's talk about physical stuff. Because, obviously, a lot of people think of terms unilaterally. They think of it like, well, what physically am I doing wrong? I have this issue. What did I do? And I say, well, it could be mental, physical, or chemical. But chances are it's a combination of all three. Not just physical. But physical things, especially for the muscles, is a huge, huge role. And a lot of people think of things like, for example, massage as like a pampering. I can go get my nails done and I can get massage done on my head and all that kind of stuff. But massage can be true body work, can get rid of a lot of this micro scarring inside of the tissues and that kind of stuff that really bind us and prevent us from truly correcting and prevent us from healing. So I'm going to have the massage therapist. Are you going to talk to? Oh, cool. So I'm going to have my massage therapist talk about massage a little bit, since they're the experts in that field, and then I'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more about the physical things. So Ashton and Kat.
Good evening. Hi guys. Want me to talk first? Okay. So we were going to kind of go over our specialty of bodywork and massage, and we wanted to kind of distinguish between our version of massage and bodywork. So like Dr. Ross said, here we're going to try and make it bodywork. We are working your body. It's a little bit different. We talk to the doctors, each doctor, and we go over your x-rays. They tell us where you're having a problem. Let's say you're having subluxation in your upper neck. They're going to address that to us, and we're going to definitely work on that area to try and support your spine in a healthy way with massage. And the way that we do that is we do deep tissue massage. So deep tissue massage is where we're going to break up those adhesions that Dr. Ross was telling you about beginning there. And what we're doing is to relieve the pain and make sure that we are restoring that full range of movement. So sometimes we can just apply a deep pressure. Sometimes we use our hands, fingers, forearms, palms, in any way to we work across the grain of movement so that we can try and break up those adhesions. Sometimes it may be a little uncomfortable, but like Dr. Ross said, we aren't doing a foo-foo massage. This is supposed to be fixing and correcting those knots and those adhesions that are in your spine or muscles. A lot of the benefits of that is that it is going to help with that chronic pain that you feel on your day-to-day basis. That tension, it's going to help with the mobility. A lot of people come in and they have such a stiff back. When they leave, they're like, "Ooh, I can move my neck around, that feels good." So it helps with all sorts of injuries as well. We see a lot of people coming in here from whiplash, car accidents, so we like to address those with the deep tissue as well. We also see a lot of people that come in for like scoliosis, so some injuries aren't from car accidents, some people are actually born with that. And we do have techniques to where we are stripping away those muscles, fibers, so that we can allow that spine that Dr. Ross or Dr. Tricia Williams or whoever is correcting your spine, so that when they are doing the correct alignment, we are just supporting that, letting that strip away. What am I trying to say? You know what I mean? So in order to strip that away. And it also has other benefits like lowering your blood pressure, your heart rate. A good example is my grandparents. My grandma does not get massage. She doesn't want anybody touching her. She's very self-conscious. But my grandpa finally took the plunge and got a massage, and he asked me if massage would help him with his blood pressure. And I told him that next time I saw him, I wanted him to take his blood pressure, and after his massage, also take his blood pressure. And it decreased significantly. And I kept telling him, "You don't even need your blood pressure medicine. You can come see me every week." But of course, he doesn't have time to come see me every week. Other than that, it also increases your serotonin levels, your endorphins, so that feeling of when you come out of the massage, you're like, you feel great. You
feel a little loopy.
Yeah, I've had a couple people that have asked me what I've used because they felt a little high, and it wasn't a high feeling, it's that endorphin or the serotonin that you're feeling that's just getting rushed to you. Also, it eases your soreness, your muscles don't feel as achy, and it also releases the lactic acid. So sometimes your muscles, after working out, even on a day-to-day basis, if you aren't doing exercise or anything, your muscles still kind of hold onto that lactic acid, and the massage is going to help release that. So that is the feeling that you feel at the very end, where you feel like you are kind of lightheaded. So that's that feeling. Did you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, well, one of the things that's important with the role that we play here as massage therapists is that when the doctors are adjusting your spine, that means that your spine is now moving from a prior sort of bad habit or bad position into a healthier position. But if you're not manipulating the soft tissue with that, then those muscles just want to pull you right back. And that's what we see over and over. And when people book consistent massages, then everything is moving in the same direction and your body works in harmony. So that's one of the most important aspects of our role here. The other thing that's interesting in terms of how the mind and the emotions, stress is basically like a bundle of emotions, right? It's our response to our life, our life experiences. One of the interesting things, because we see so many chronic issues and or injury issues of people just coming off accidents, what I've found in working with people is that sometimes those areas are holding pockets of emotion. So if I'm really working with a knot to the point where it should be releasing, but they're holding on, sometimes I go through a visualization technique. It's very simple, and have the person get calm and aware of what they're holding there. And when they identify that emotion, the physicality of the knot will release. And it's very interesting to see that over and over. And having given some of my clients that technique, last week just 2 of them came back to me and said that they've been using it in their life. So when the things that stress them out, like one lady talked about fighting with her husband, and she said, I immediately started picturing blue, and I just went off into a corner because I didn't want to go to bed mad. And she went through the process of sort of running it through her system, and she said that it was helping in her daily life as well, because we want to sort of manage those things so that it's not building up. Another aspect is that we both work with essential oils, and therapeutic grade essential oils actually have, they're like medicine. So they have antiviral, anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial properties in them that can very much assist with releasing tension, as well as building your immune system. For example, wintergreen is a natural cortisone, so that really helps with joints and bone issues. Peppermint is a natural analgesic. It also boosts mental acuity by about 28%, as research has shown. And lavender is not only a relaxant, but it is a muscle relaxant, meaning that it actually well, it does, in that sense, it does penetrate. Essential oils, their molecules are small enough to go into your cell and penetrate the cell, so they're working at that level. So sometimes when I'm dealing with a whiplash and it's sort of fresh and I don't want to dig too deep right away, I'll apply peppermint and lavender, work on the shoulders first, and then go back, and it's already relaxed a bit so that I can go in there without having to use as much pressure for a fresh injury. So those are some, and the other interesting component of essential oils are that they work physically, they work mentally, and they work emotionally. So emotionally, when you're smelling that, they're going up through the olfactory into the amygdala, which is where we store emotional memory. And sometimes people will have that relaxing effect and can just release that much more to allow the physical parts to unwind as well. So it's sort of a real holistic approach. And that's part of why I really love working here, is that with these health talks, it's not just about getting adjusted and getting massage, it's about your diet, it's about your exercise, it's the full approach. Because when you named it fixing your tissue issue, part of that, what I thought was so cool about that is that not only are we trapping tension, physical tension and emotions and things like that, but what we're intaking into our bodies in terms of whether or not we're eating organic, whether or not we're ingesting pesticides to some degree, the air we breathe, the water we drink, those things will get trapped in your fat cells. And essential oils that are therapeutic grade are also lipid soluble, so they will actually remove toxins from your cells. Like grapefruit removes it from fat, lemon removes it from every cell. So you're getting a lot of improvement in your lymph flow as well.
Yeah, very good. And Kat was mentioning earlier how when she was holding on to a knot and trying to get it to release, she uses emotional technique. Along with the emotional technique, just with us holding on to that point is called trigger point therapy. So when we're holding that point, the reason we're doing that is there are certain, Dr. Ross will go into it too, certain pressure points in your muscles that when you hold on to a specific point, depending on the point, you could hold up to like 90 seconds, I think, in order for it to try and relax. So you're holding on to that point, working that muscle back and forth, and whatever, for example, your pec, maybe there's a pressure point right here. So you're going to move that around, try and get that muscle to release, which is also going to cause it to loosen, and you're able to move it. It weakens the opposing muscles that are trying to contract to it, so that it's all around. If you're pressing this point, it's getting this whole area. So it's very important that we do that too, and it's super, what's the word I'm thinking of?
Awesome.
Yeah, it's the most effective way for a massage, basically, besides deep tissue.
It's thorough.
Yeah, it's very thorough. It doesn't, sometimes it doesn't feel all that great. Deep breathing really helps with that, but other than that, I mean, I think that's all we were going to talk about.
Cool.
So,
Thank you so much.
So I was going to do a program just on this, right?
We were going to do that, yeah. We combined it all. But
Just do this simple.
yeah. Well, the cool things about trigger points and pressure points is, if you look physiologically, a gal named, an MD named Trammell, I think her name was, she was the one that really pioneered the science of trigger points. And what she found was, in the muscle, there is a channel, picture it like a sewer system of how we get rid of the lactic acid in your muscle. So when we work a muscle, lactic acid is produced, and that's a waste product, and we need to get rid of that. But the sewer system, if it was a perfect system, the sewer system would whisk everything away and there'd be no waste at all, right? The reality is, in the body, the sewer system goes this way, and then there's another sewer system this way, and then there's another one, and so there's a lot of different ways that we get rid of the waste, and that creates traffic. And that sewer system can back up, and those backed up areas are essentially what's called trigger points. When the backup, when the waste is significant enough that it starts to irritate the tissues start to contract, because toxicity is a major irritant in our body. And those spots, when she was going through it, she found that those spots are consistent with many people. Many people have the same kind of sewer systems that run through their body. Don't get me wrong, it's not sewer, but you got me. So the premise is that when you get in there and physically work that trigger point, you're basically pushing the waste out of those areas into other areas where the sewage system is much more adept at getting rid of it. So you're breaking down the buildup, and so you're breaking down the irritation to the tissues. The problem is that you still have the muscle there, which is still creating what? More lactic acid. So you're still going to have the backup, which is why it's an ongoing thing. So you have to work on yourself ongoing. And I on the back, I gave you some of the major trigger points there. In fact, there's the one that Ashton just showed you on the pec minor. These are very common trigger points or pressure points, which is where the backup mostly happens. The one thing about having a professional work on you, like Kat and Ashton, and all chiropractors have massive experience in this stuff, is they can get in and within 2 seconds they can find those spots. I mean, they're very easy to feel when you have a feel of what they feel like. And so when you get in there and you have an active point, that means that there's pain involved there. There's inflammation already around that area. The sewer backup is enough that there is sensitivity there. So when you push on it, even if you didn't know you had it, you've probably all experienced it. You're like just going like, ooh, what the heck is that? Oh, that hurts, And that's an active pressure point. The passive pressure point is one that is there and there's a backup, but it hasn't got to that place where it's inflamed or irritated. And then we treat those two areas very differently. So active pressure points are almost always inflamed somehow. So almost always inflamed. What do we use for inflamed areas? Ice. Why don't we ever use heat? This is the lesson that I sincerely wish they would let me come into medical schools and teach medical doctors this. Because we get it all the time where people get into a whiplash, they can barely turn their neck, they're super inflamed all over the place, their diet is horrible, so they're inflamed chemically, their minds are terrible, so they're inflamed mentally, and the doctor says, well, just put some heat on it. I guess it'll be fine. Just put heat on it. And we, just go crazy like, what are you guys thinking? Heat makes the muscles do what? Let me put it this way. The blood flow is either increased or decreased when we put heat or ice on it. So when we put heat on an area, does that increase the blood flow or decrease? Increase. So it opens up the blood vessels. So you've got more waste running through that area. And you are backing up the sewers even faster. And the inflamed area, picture like the sewers have busted leaks everywhere. And so you're leaking sewage into the tissues. When you increase the fluid moving through there, you're increasing the leak that goes on. So inflamed areas, you don't want to use heat. You want to use ice. What does ice do to the blood flow? Constricts and slows it down, allows your system to whisk away the already flooded area. Does that make sense? That's why we use ice instead of heat for inflamed areas. So if it's tender, use ice. If you go through some trauma, use ice. If it's not sore, or if it's tense or tight, by all means you can use heat. So you can increase the blood flow and get more blood flow going in that area and that so forth. So that's the difference between heat and ice. Here's the question though. Between heat or ice, which will never do you any damage? Ice. So if you ever have a question, well, this is sore, I don't know if it's inflamed or not, what should you use? Ice, because you'll never do any damage. Heat feels better at the time. So you go, yeah, it feels better when I've got this heat on it, but then you wake up, you know, a few hours later, or you'll wake up the next day and you'll go, oh my God, I'm even worse. And that's because you've created more inflammation in there. So that's ice. I'm going to come back to this stuff. I'm going to go over nutritional first, and then come back so that we can go over what some of the points and how you do them yourself, biofeedback technique, that sort of thing. So Kat mentioned detox, because toxicity is a major irritant. Toxicity causes muscle contraction. Toxicity causes all sorts of inflammation in your body. So detox programs are excellent. I recommend that you do at least one detox program for your body per year to whisk everything out of there. All the tissues, like you said, the fat cells are where we put most of those toxins, but we also put them intracellular, into the intracellular space. So whisking that stuff away is very important. Water, very important. Drink enough water for your body. That's going to be a little different for every person. You know, they used to say eight glasses of 8 ounces a day. That's going to be variable for different people. But drink lots of water, good, fresh, filtered water, and that helps to flush the body as well. Proper rest, we'll go over that as well, but eating God-made foods. What's a God-made food? Organic. Things that grow, yeah, not created in a laboratory somewhere. What else? Not processed, yeah. So as close to the way God created it as possible. Not genetically modified, not processed, not created in a laboratory, not taken from, you know, that and transformed into something else. So the more God-made foods, yeah. So are God-made foods detoxing or toxic? Toxic. Yeah, they're detoxing as well. So the more you eat of real God-made foods, lots of vegetables and stuff, it detoxes your body up, actually helps your soft tissue, supports your soft tissue. Magnesium, chamomile, B vitamins, peppermint, wintergreen oils, all these things are very helpful for your soft tissue. We talked about the oils and the essential oils. I didn't put lavender on there. Lavender is a great one as well.
Are those oils ingested or is it surface?
Surface, yep. So magnesium is what we consider the best mineral to relax muscle and relax contractive soft tissue. It is a depressant, so you want to take it at night because it can make you drowsy if you're not used to it. What's that?
Can't sleep.
If you can't sleep, it's a great one to take. Yeah.
Except for magnesium citrate, right?
No, you can all magnesium. Yep.
Really?
Yep.
I
All,
won't put you on the
yeah. Maybe I'll put you on.
No, that's what they
Yeah.
give you at the hospital to clean you out before an enema, before a...
Well, the magnesium is not it probably is the citrate, I guess, and it's magnesium nitrate, I think, is the stuff they actually give you, but the magnesium itself is a depressant. So they want to release the tension on that soft tissue. So there's smooth muscle or voluntary muscle. Smooth muscle is of the bowels and of the internal organs and stuff like that. So magnesium is a good one. Just if you want to relax, make sure you're taking magnesium. I recommend you take magnesium and calcium together. Chamomile is another one. Chamomile tea, chamomile drops, that kind of stuff is definitely helps to relax. You'll notice, and there's a ton of herbal formulas, and I didn't go a lot into the herbs because they're all different names and that kind of stuff, but herbs can help you relax as well. And they relax you on all different levels. So they relax you, internally, they relax you mentally, all that stuff. Formula 303 is a great relaxant. That's a muscle relaxant, all herbal. So you can try that if you want to relax. But you got to be careful about all these things because they are what medications are derived from. So they take these herbs and they, concentrate them and put them in different ways and manipulate them a little bit and make them more powerful. But the herbs are still what they're made of. So if you take Formula 303, make sure you take it at bedtime so that you figure out how it's going to affect you, if it's going to make you drowsy, that kind of stuff. Protein is a big one because all muscle, all tissue is derived of amino acids. So if you're not getting the quality protein, if you're not getting the amount of protein you need, then you're going to be suffering in that way. So our bodies break down our tissues, our soft tissues, on a daily basis. We always look at it as a roller coaster ride. So we break down during the day, we build up at night. Break down during the day, build up at night. We want to see the same levels. So as we break down, we build up all the way to the same level that we were the day before. And then we break down during the day, and then we build back up at night. Break down. See how I'm same? If I don't get enough protein, or if I'm not getting enough rest, I'm going to break down, and then the build-up's going to be not as much as the breakdown. And then I go for the next day. Break down, build up. Where am I going? Down. So eventually you're going to hit a level where you can't function well. Your body is breaking down. And so that's where people often have a breakdown. You know, it's where they actually can't come back. So eating protein, getting enough rest are the two major factors we talk about in that. There's great protein supplements, but you got to be careful of the source. So you want organic source, you want grass-fed source, you want good quality protein that hasn't been heated or filtered or whatever it is. Who thinks the Power Bar protein bars are really good? Who's ever seen one of those grazing in the fields? Yeah, so those bars and stuff are really crummy, filled with chemicals, filled with high fructose corn syrup, all that stuff.
But he have a recipe. He made his own, where he put his own natural
It's true.
oats and soybean. And
Yep. The original guy that did Power Bar did that, but then he sold the company to Gatorade. And now what is it filled with? Chemicals. Chemicals. Gatorade's another example. Gatorade was, you know, high quality sugars, high quality electrolytes, filtered water, that kind of stuff. No process, no colorings, nothing like that. And then when they sold it to a big company, they turned it into high fructose corn syrup, really low quality stuff, tons of dyes and you know, phytochemicals and all sorts of weird stuff. Excitotoxins, yeah, MSG and stuff to make it taste better. But you know, so if you ever watch those original games and you see the Florida Gators, you know, they were drinking the water, and this is their reaction. Tasted terrible, absolutely nasty. But it helped them, you know, regenerate. It wasn't like, ooh, this is good, Michael Jordan. Hey, cheers, Tiger. It was like, no, that stuff is not the real stuff. It was sold, then it became something different. So herbal remedies, if you have any questions about herbal remedies, bring them in. Same with any vitamin, mineral formulation you're taking. By all means, bring them in. We would love to look at them and help you decide what dosage and all that kind of stuff. And so sometimes we have to research it, and that's awesome. That makes me, you know, I'm a research type of guy. I love to research it and go through the stuff, so bring it in. So let's talk about the movement of joints. So the movement of joints is vital because, as I've said in some of my other talks, your body is in a constant state of breaking down and building up, breaking down and building up. In fact, right now in your body, you have literally 1 million cells that are trying to put you back together from all the damage that you do on a daily basis. Those cells, chondroblasts and osteoblasts and all that kind of stuff, are building cells that lay down tissue for you. So picture spiders that are running down and laying down spider webs. This is a pleasant thought, isn't it? So you got all these cells going down and they're laying down little fibers everywhere. And those fibers go in every which way. So it's not you know, specific for a certain joint. They're just laying down fibers every which way. And if you don't break up those fibers, the ones that are in the wrong places, you will become stiff and you will be less movement and all that kind of stuff. What happens if I put a cast on my arm? Let's say I put it from here all the way down and I kept that cast on for 6 weeks. When I take that cast off, is my arm like super movable? You know, I can barely move it because I haven't been breaking up those little tissues that build up. What we call the micro scarring of your body. So movement is vital. Movement breaks up the spider webs. Movement keeps that joint healthy. So vital to move your joint, every single joint in your body, through its full range of motion every single day. And so this is an easy, and again, you can YouTube it, you can do all that stuff if you want different programs, because if you do the same program over and over and over and over again, you might get good results, but it's boring, right? So look for new things, try new things, go to exercise classes, go to yoga classes, do the YouTube, whatever it may be. So an easy one, just for my hand, would be to start by just flexing my whole hand, maybe a few times, getting all those joints moving, and then maybe the elbow, getting the elbow all the way through its full range of motion. Notice I'm not doing anything specific, I'm just doing what innately feels good. And then I go the shoulder, and I can move the shoulder all the way around. So I'm moving those joints to the full range of motion. Now I just moved all the joints in my hand, arm, and shoulder in, how long did that take me? About 5 seconds. So does this take hours to do? Oh, heck no. Maybe it takes you hours to do, but it doesn't take me hours to do. So the same is true of, and in fact, one of the videos that is on YouTube is Max Movement, and I go over the spinal movement. In fact, it's on your sheet here. And that mantra that I always talk about is forward, back, lean to the side, turn, and turn. I've just moved all my neck vertebrae and joints through their full range of motion in that little bit of time. So just tuck it all the way forward, all the way back, lean to the side, turn and turn. And you can do that with your mid-back, you can do that with your lower back, forward, back, side, turn, turn. And that moves your whole spine through its full range of motion. And you should be doing that at least twice a day. So I tell people a great time to do it is when you're brushing your teeth. And I know the dental hygienists always hate it because, if you got a toothbrush in your mouth and you bang into something, they don't like it. But if you do that when you're brushing your teeth, and it takes less time than brushing your teeth. So how long does it take you to brush your teeth? Probably a minute or 2 minutes or something. This takes less time than that. So you can be brushing, and you're forward, back, side, turn, turn, and then do your mid-back, forward, back, side, turn, turn. Then do your lower back, forward, back, side. Yeah, the toothpaste coming out of your mouth by now. And so if you do that twice a day, you're going to break up all those fixations and your spine's going to move. And that also stimulates all those proprioceptors, which bombard your brain with positive impulses and helps your tension level go what? Down. Tension level go down. A lot of people tell me, well, I'm so tense. Oh, did you get any exercise today? No. You think you maybe should do exercise? Well, I don't have time. Did you brush your teeth? Yeah. Well, you got time. You just didn't make the time, right? So whenever people say they don't have time, that's the lamest excuse ever. Because you had time to do all sorts of other stuff. You just chose not to move your spine through a full range of motion. You chose not to exercise. You chose not to stretch. You chose not to work on your meditation or your prayer or your visualization. That's a choice you made. Oh, I forgot. Okay, well, you chose to forget, right? So let's talk a little bit about active release technique. So the girls said it, and when you have a professional do it, it's going to be a little different. But with the active, and because I'm going to show you active release on your shoulders here, because these are where most people, I can tell you from my experience, and maybe it's a little different for you guys, but from my experience, most people hold their tension in 2 areas, not 1, 2. This is all 1. So this is 1, and 2 is of the lower back, where you really hold a lot of tension. And so when we're pressing, there's always active pressure points there. There's always active pressure points in the lower back and into the glutes where people hold most of their tension. So active release technique means that you are, let me put this down for a sec, you are holding an active point down as you are moving your neck away and you're feeling that tension there. And you hold it for 10 seconds. And then you bring it back, you rest, you push, you find the spot. So it's wherever that knot is or that active pressure point is. You push down as you take your neck and you're moving it all the way up around. So what you're really doing is you're creating stretch as you're pushing on the tension point. And so I always do it with the opposite hand. So you don't do it with the same hand. Do it opposite across your body. You hold that. Even better would be if you can sit on this hand or hold something with this hand. Like in those chairs, there's a little thing below that you can a lot of times hang on to. And so you push down. I would start with my ear close to that shoulder. Push down and stretch away nice and slow over a count of 10 seconds. If you're getting that active point, it's going to be tender, and that's okay. It's supposed to be tender. So that's active release technique. A lot of times people will do it on the arms or on the elbows or knees, and those spots, when you're moving that joint through its full range of motion and stretching that muscle, you're actually stripping all the gunk that's in there, the fixation. So I said the spider webs are easy to break up if you're doing it on a daily basis, because the spider webs are tiny, and but think of when the spiders have been working there for a year, and now all the webs are really gunky, and now it's harder to, you can't just move that and break it all up. You have to get in there and dig it out. That's where the girls can really get in there. What'd you say?
So you got to get the vacuum cleaner out.
Yeah, you got to get the vacuum. A little duster is not going to do it. So I'm going to show you some pressure points now. So pressure points can be done in two ways. One is for active pressure points, one is for passive pressure points. It's really similar in how you do it. It's just what you use after. So with active pressure points, I always recommend using ice, because there's most likely what is there? Inflammation, right? And so with passive pressure points that weren't so tender, you might feel the tension, but they're not tender, they're not active. You can use heat on those ones. The reality is you can use heat initially on both. Kind of like Kat was saying, you can use the oils to help you relax. The heat gets a little more blood flow in there, then you do your work, then you ice. Always end with ice. But with the pressure points for your head, now what you would do is in a comfortable position, sitting is really ideal. You put your hand kind of like almost you're going to clasp your fingers there, but you just roll outwards so that it's comfortable right underneath the skull. You bring that down until you find those pressure points. And they're very prevalent in most people. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to keep these hands nice and loose. Your fingers are right there in the pressure point areas, and what we call the suboccipital muscles. And now what you're going to do is you're going to push your head back into your hands. I don't want you to pull forward with your hands. I want you to push your head back into your hands and just try and relax that to a count of 10. And you hold that, hold that, hold that, pushing it back as hard or as light as you want, depending on how tender it is, and then you release. Now you're going to stretch forward. And usually I'll use my hands to help me stretch those same muscles. And you're going to go through that 3 times. Quite often I'll work, if you look at the areas, I'll work initially on the inside here, and then I'll come a little further out, then I'll come a little further out. So those 3 areas are all in those suboccipital muscles that come down from your skull to your very first vertebrae, or your atlas vertebrae. And so those are really easy because you can sit there and do them on yourself, and you use your neck to push, not your hands. Does that make sense? So a lot of people get this wrong because they push their head forward, and then they're trying to do that with a stretched muscle. We want to relax the muscle, so we're pushing back with our neck lower down, and we're relaxing the occipital muscles to try and get in there deeper, right underneath the skull. And a lot of times if people have a tension headache, because the muscles are pushing on those nerves that go up into the back of the occiput and into the brain, we can relax those and take away the headache. You can also do it on other people. So you can put your thumbs in there, find the spots, and then have them push back against your hand. And it works really well. And that way you're not kind of shaking because your muscles are sore from doing it, and they can moderate how much tension or how much pressure there is. So the more they push back against your thumbs, the more pressure. The less they push back, the less pressure. Make sense? So on your sheet here, I've got some of the things there that you can do. Like Ashton said, you can hold a pressure point for up to 90 seconds. Here, a passive point, you can hold it up to, I put 30 seconds. I wouldn't do much more than 30 seconds because you can turn a passive pressure point into an active pressure point when you dig so hard that you actually create inflammation.
Yeah, I was like, I don't recommend you doing that.
Right.
Do what he says on here. We'll do that.
Right, right. So the biofeedback technique, now there is what's called a surface electromile graph, which shows you muscle tension. And those are great if you have few $1,000s to throw around and you want to buy one of your machines. But the other thing you can do is you can use your hand and your mind to try and, really feel the tension. And so what you do is I've got it on here, you place your hand on the muscle that you want to relax. And generally this is going to either be the shoulders, or it's going to be the back, or it's going to be somewhere that is tense, that you can relax. And then you're going to breathe in and moderately contract that muscle with resistance for about 10 seconds, or sorry, really less than that. So it doesn't have to be a hard contraction. It doesn't have to be a full contraction. It's just you want to tense. So in the shoulders, what I recommend is you go up, tense as you breathe in, a few seconds, and then you're going to relax as you breathe out, and you're really going to focus on relaxing. Use the feedback that you're getting to relax and relax and relax, and you're breathing out. Really hard to do this when you're standing up trying to explain it. So when you're breathing in, you're contracting. When you're breathing out, you're relaxing. And fully relax, not just your shoulders, but your whole body. And as you get better at this, as you focus more, you can actually physically relax that muscle. And they've shown it over and over with the Electromile Graph as the actual amount of electricity running through that muscle goes down and down and down to the point where you get really good at it. You can biofeedback, any part of your body and relax the muscle completely. So very cool technique that's not that hard to do, even if you don't have Electromile Graph. But you gotta just work on the contraction and then the relax, contract and relax, and so forth. Questions at all about that stuff?
These X's on your back, is those points
Mm-hmm.
too?
Yeah.
How do you do the ones in the middle of your back?
You don't. So you use a tennis ball. Yeah, you can't. A tennis ball. So for example, I've had people say, well, I can do this and I can contort that. And I say, no, it's not relaxing. A great way to get a lot of those points, by the way, is what's called a massage roller. Yep, and you get a cylinder, it's kind of hard, it's hard foam, and you can roll back and forth. And when you roll and contort your spine, you're going to catch all those pressure points. And you can feel them, yeah, and you can really roll out that stuff. By the way, the rolling, is pushing all the lactic acid and that kind of stuff out of the area into different sewage areas so that it can be whisked away easier. Same as general massage. One of the reasons that they always say drink lots of water after your massage is because they are releasing a lot of the toxins into your bloodstream. So it's taking it out of the sewers and into the bloodstream. When you're very toxic, you feel icky and you feel sick, and so drinking lots of water helps to flush the system. Make sense? Did I catch all the big parts? Oh, I wanted to, last thing on Biofreeze. So a lot of people ask us about Biofreeze, the menthol, the camphor. These are very good things, but they are neither heat nor ice. So even though they say liquid ice, liquid heat, all that kind of stuff, they're really neither heat nor ice. So they can be used on both. What it is, it only penetrates about 1 centimeter, which in American terms is probably, half an inch, something like that. So yeah, so it only goes in a little bit, so you're not getting into the deep tissues. You're really releasing or opening up the blood vessels to your skin. So when you do that, you stimulate the nerve sensors on the skin, and that bombards the brain with those sensations, which decreases your actual pain sensations. So it can help decrease pain by doing the bait and switch. Now you're feeling your skin more than your actual muscle or that kind of stuff. But when it wears off, where are you at? Yeah, so it's safe, it's natural, but it's neither heat nor ice, so It's a temporary fix, but it can be very helpful for a lot of people. That's why we believe in it. So when you're working on soft tissue, you can use the oils, which you can buy, you know, really good oils in the health food stores. You can also get the Biofreeze and put that on and work with that. Does that make sense? We can also order you any oils if you want, you know, those kind of stuff. We can order them for you, and you just pay, you know, whatever it costs us. So thank you so much for coming, guys. God bless you all. And if you have any questions, as always, I will be around to answer those.